My agenda is going to be I'm going to be talking about some strategic challenges, right, at a high level, what's happening around the world. I'll introduce you to the innovation principles, what is creativity, and how are innovators different from execution people who execute. I'll talk about design thinking, 5 phases of design thinking, and then again some summary and call for action that you can take away. Okay. I'll just okay. As I said, this disclaimer is, means I already covered. This is my experience, and some of the material that I'm using here is available in Google. It's a best practice, and this is not completely my work, but I want to credit the authors from where I have leveraged the work. Okay, so key strategic challenges, right? If you look at what's happening in the around the world, there is a four-letter acronym called VUCA. It's pretty popular right now: volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. We are actually leaving this world, right? This was a fact pre-COVID time also, and now I think this has become even more complex. It's very volatile. We don't know what's happening around us. Uncertain times, right? Both with respect to the economy as well as our individual careers, right? Very complex. There are too many parameters. If you touch one parameter, you don't know what's going to be the impact, and ambiguous, right? You don't know what you should be doing in this very complex and interconnected world, right? The China's wet market, whatever happened in China's wet market has now impacted the whole world, and that's how the nature of the world is currently very complex. If you look at from the enterprise world, we are actually seeing something called as commoditization, where multiple industries, right? When you can't differentiate between two products, we call it as commoditization. Let's say mobile phones, right? If you want a core basic mobile phone, you have so many options, you can't differentiate what to buy. Similar thing is happening in the PC world, right? Too many competitors, IT world, right? Servers, storage, networking. There's too much commoditization is happening. But competition is intense, right? Whether it is retail or whether it's enterprise, sometimes you don't know what to buy, or you have too many choice, and there are so many startups coming up. Right, across everywhere in the world, and what is enabling them to come up so quickly is technologies like cloud. You don't have to invest. You use your credit card, get the infrastructure, experiment. There is knowledge democratization. Whatever you want, right? Whatever you want to learn, it's available on the web. And what is happening is this is creating disruptions everywhere, right? Now a small player can disrupt a big incumbent. The top 500 companies of from 1990s to 2010s, 15s has completely changed, right? You have the top four companies are completely different. So this is the kind of world we are living in, right? Extremely competitive, and if we can't design and deliver personalized solutions to our customers, it's going to be very difficult for us to kind of sustain and be competitive. Right. Third thing is another important thing is we need to engage our customers and employees. We have the millennials who are coming up with high expectations. They have been using means very popular tools like Facebook, Google, etc. And when they come to the enterprise and they start using the enterprise tools, they want similar experience, right? And we need to use technology. We need to manage people. We need to manage our customers, and especially in the COVID, in the current time frame, this becomes more challenging. And last but not the least, innovation is going to be very important for any company, right? Whether it's a startup or a big enterprise. If you want to be competitive, you need to innovate, right? And if you look at what's happening around, maybe in the 1990s and 2000s, right? What skill was more valued was you had to implement, right? You can say delivery skills. You have to deliver some requirements are given to you, and most of us we used to code, and we became IT professionals that way, right? But if you look at what is happening now, there are ready-made components available, and you just have to interconnect things, find the missing pieces, find the right problem, and then you have a product ready. So what I am personally seeing is that there is more focus on innovation skills, versatile skills, and the delivery skills is important, but I think the balance is slowly shifting towards more. We need more people who are creative enough, right? And that's where innovation is a hot topic. There is a lot of confusion between what is invention, what is innovation, and so many definitions are available. Just to set the context, right, I just want to put the definition in. Uh, definition. Invention. What is invention? Invention is the first occurrence of an idea for a new product or process and its means for accomplishment. So let's say you get a wild idea, right? You may not have a product, but you have an idea. You think it's novel, it's non-obvious, it's useful, and you know how to get that thing done. Right, so you can go and file an invention disclosure if you're in a big enterprise. You can get a patent application done, and that's called an invention. Right? What is innovation? The process of translating an idea or invention into a good or service that creates value for which customers will pay. So the key important thing is when you take an invention, right, do all the necessary things, package it in a nice way, and that's valuable to the customers, and customers are ready to pay, then you call it as an innovation, right? Quick example: who designed bulb, right? Edison. That was not even productionized, but then there are many companies who took that idea of a bulb and productionized it, right? Maybe it could be companies like Wipro had bulbs, Philips, and many other companies that you're aware of. Another example, mobile phone. You may not even know who is the inventor of mobile phone, right? But who innovated on the mobile phone technology was Apple, right? They built an ecosystem, and we remember Apple because they created value. Right? So that's the difference between invention and innovation. Innovation means you need to differentiate, right? If you are just copying an idea from your competitor's product, it's not differentiation, right? So that's a key aspect that you need to remember. So creativity plays an important part in innovation. Innovation also includes execution. So what normally we think is, okay, I have a great idea, right? And if you can't take that idea to the market in the quickest possible way, right? When the customers need it, you are not innovating, right? You have a failed innovation. So execution is also pretty important, and many of us, right, in big large enterprises, we are too slow, and we are in an economy called an idea economy where everybody has idea. We have a lot of people, right? It is who takes the idea faster to the market in the right way, they will be the winners, right? So execution is also a key part in innovation. Now let's look at innovators DNA, right? So there have been multiple research done. Who is creative, right? Can creativity be developed, right? Is creativity inbuilt into the genes, etc.? And multiple research has happened. And one thing that comes out very common in all these research findings is creativity can be developed, right? So there is some inbuilt thing that comes through genes. Some people are definitely smarter than others, right? In certain areas, everybody is skilled, but some people are smarter than others in some areas. But the good thing is creativity can be developed, and research was done, right? And they try to figure out what does the innovators do differently from non-innovators, and they found that there are 5 key skills that the innovators have, right? So let me start off from the questioning part, right? The innovators question, right? Question a lot. They question the symptom, they question possibilities, they imagine things, they question the status quo. So they have a natural tendency to question a lot. If you look at, right, let's say India culture, right? Why one of the things that comes to my mind is, why is India not doing like US? We don't have large number of startups from the in the last means we have large number of startups, right? We don't have a company like Google or Amazon inside India with the idea conceptualized here. So what may be the reason, right? One thing is, if you look at the generation, the older generation, and even the younger generation, reasoning, right? We are hierarchical. We can't question our parents, so we have an inbuilt tendency to kind of suppress our whatever comes to our head, right? Second thing is, in schools, I am not sure about the schools in the modern era, but in the times that we were growing, right? If you were asked a question, you used to be called as a smart kid who is trying to question the teacher, right? So we were suppressed from our thought process. So what naturally happens is, we are a good services company, but if we want to become innovative, we need to start questioning the status quo, right? And that's a skill that we need to develop. And innovators have those skills. Steve Jobs is an example. He used to question everything, right? And I think there is material available where, right, he questioned why should laptops have fans, right? Why can't laptops be silent? Because he was inspired. He came to India, he meditated, and he liked the concepts, right? Of everything being silent, and that's how, right, he was able to design the first machine, Apple machine, that was not very noisy. Right? Innovators network a lot, right? And if you look at in the morning sessions, I think Sudhindra covered some aspects, right? And I think uh, there were multiple sessions around networking, collaboration, very, very important, right? And I think Saeed talked about, right, how innovation is happening at the intersection of two technologies. So if you are not networked, right, if you're not networked with the right people, if you're not ready to get their perspectives, you cannot collaborate with them, you will not be able to innovate, right, in a big way. So networking and collaboration is very important. So if you have an idea, share the idea with 20 people, right, you get different perspectives from different fields. You will start seeing, right, how people use their experience to develop the idea. Observe, right, you need to have you need to observe your customers, you need to observe your users of your product. If you're developing mobile applications, etc., anybody, right, anybody who uses your product. And again, Steve Jobs, right, to take the example, he was very good at it. And if you look at what was the inspiration behind the design of Apple, it was his visit to Xerox labs, where it seems he went around, he saw some Xerox lab research, a lot of good uh, graphical user interface which they didn't know where to take forward, and he got the concepts, he applied those concepts into his products, and it became very successful, right? And innovators experiment a lot, right? They dwell on getting the experiences, they want to know how things work, right? They want to visualize, because when you experiment, you actually activate all your senses, and you kind of are enriched, and the knowledge that you get stays in your subconscious, right? And when you have all these things, when you have diverse topic, when you're a collaborator, when you question, when you observe, when you absorb things, right, you have fundamental knowledge. What happens is your brain automatically starts associating, right? Given a problem, and if you're very focused, that's where, right, you need to be passionate, hardworking, risk taker. These are some of the things, right? And when you are focused on a problem and you just keep acquiring and doing these right things, you become your head, the brain is wired to automatically associate and create new combinations, right? So you just think about the problem, you'll find the answer. And many of you might have experienced, right, if you have been in the industry for some time, you may be working on a bug and it doesn't work, and you sleep and you get up in the morning and suddenly you get the idea, right? That's where I think the yoga teacher, right, she was taking keep your mind calm. Calm mind helps in innovation. Will cover some of these aspects, and it's the mind automatically associates. If you keep sleeping and thinking about the problem and keep acquiring the knowledge, magic happens, right? And there's no answer of how you can be innovative, and that's the experience that I had during my last few years of my career. And I think the same thing is being explained by many innovators, right? So I think this is how innovation happens. Some facts about creativity. So creative research findings, right? So what do they do? Creative people, as I said, diverse experiences, right? They go to, Steve Jobs went to meditation, he went to calligraphy. These are all well-known things. He used the learnings from calligraphy to building the fonts, right? In Apple, the Apple machines. Creative people use analogies to see how you can relate the two independent systems to learn from each other, and they visualize more, right? And I think Sudhindra again touched upon some of these aspects of storytelling, visualization. So when you visualize, right, your environment, it stays in your head, right? And try to visualize more, storyboarding, all those things are very, very important techniques, which I'll cover a little bit in the later part. Intrinsic motivation, right? One of the key things, again, in this complex environment, it's very important that you need to stay motivated, right? Some of your dreams may be shattered because of COVID. It's going to bounce back. The economy is going to bounce back, but this is the time where you don't give up. And again, very important, this was covered in the sessions, your motivation level should be up. When chips are down, you don't give up, right? You try to give more. And that's what is the difference between highly successful people and it, normal people, right? Being happy and calm, very, very important. If there is something that makes you happy, do that every day, right? And when you are happy, your mind is relaxed, right? The knowledge that you have will come out. And as I said, associativity, it's proven that you associate better when you're working in a less stressed environment, right? Let's say I have a gun on your head and say think, right? You will not be able to think. But then again, when I set the atmosphere right, you are light and you are able to think freely, a lot of creative ideas come in, right? A creative person oscillate between introverts and extroverts. Very interesting, because right, you need some time to internalize your learnings, right? You need to connect the dots and you need to allow that learning to sink in. This research says that they oscillate between extroverts because you need to network, you need to experiment with others, you need to collaborate, right? You need to observe, you need to question. But then sometimes you have to take time to introvert, be an introvert, right? And kind of internalize all the learnings. Right level of constraints can help in generating new ideas. How many of you have seen MasterChef, right? They try to give four or five ingredients sometimes, and then on the spot you have to think about a new idea. Sometimes when you put in the right constraints, right, in the system, you innovate. Otherwise, if you give too many options, you are all over the place. You don't know, right? You just go around and mind is confused, and it's that's how mind works, right? So you become more innovative. And one thing that's proven is, as I said, creativity can be developed. 65 to 70% of creativity can be developed, and few things are genes, right? It's coming from genes. But then, if you follow a step by step process, you can definitely be creative and you can be innovative. So that's some of the facts, and this should give all of us, right? We may not be the most, we may not be geniuses. Most of us, all of us, almost are maybe in the 99% of the population. So we can be creative, and you just have to practice, right? So we learned about the innovator DNA, right? There are five DNA, right? Five skills that they do very, very well. We know, right? I mean, research has established that innovation, creativity can be developed with a methodical approach. So, can we come up with some methodology that's popular, and that process is called, or that methodology is called design thinking, right? So, before I go to design thinking, right? So, since we are doing this as a virtual session. Normally, I ask a lot of questions when I see the audience, and I know it's afternoon time. I would not have let you sleep if you were in front of me. But right now, here are the five. There's a small exercise that I want you to do. Take these five skills. Okay. I'll maybe mention that skill again. Identify two innovative skills. Start practicing more actively from today. Right. So, and write 2 to 3 actions you will take to make this happen, right? I just want to give you 2 minutes now. For example, the action could be, I'm going to ask questions going forward, right, in this session, right? Don't make me uncomfortable, but you can do that, right? You can ask questions. Don't feel, right, as I was telling you, right, we feel if you ask questions, we look stupid. Don't worry, right? If you have a genuine question, ask it. I'm going to network in conferences. Once the COVID situation becomes better, if I go to a conference, I'm going to network. And I'm going to observe my customers using the project. I'm going to experiment more, right? I'm going to play around with tools, etc., etc. It could be anything. I just want you to list. I'll give you 1 minute. I'll pause for 1 to 2 minutes. Two innovator skills and 2 to 3 actions that you're going to work on, right? To make sure that you become better. Okay. I'll stop for a minute now. So if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat window, and when time comes, or maybe soon after the exercise, we can take it up also. I hope it's clear so far, right? So key takeaway is innovation is creativity plus execution, right? And creativity can be developed. There are five skills. If you practice these five skills, if you do the fundamentals, your knowledge becomes better. And when you have the knowledge, experiences in your head, when you have a problem, things will happen, right? Your head will associate. But you need to be hungry. You need to have passion. Need to be passionate, and you need to constantly be thinking about problem, challenging the status quo. Once you do that, you'll automatically get better. It'll take you maybe 2 to 3 years if you practice, but you'll get there. Okay. Okay. So let's move on. I hope at least a few of you uh, have listed down what you do, what you should, what you could do the coming days, right? Okay, so let's start with design thinking now, right? So what is design, right? If I ask the question, what is design? right? In the normal sessions, when I do it face to face, yeah, it's a verb, it's a noun, it's an adjective, it's our design document, it is how it looks. There are so many different answers, right? And I was also trying to figure out what is design. But the best answer that I got is design is a process, a way of thinking to transform existing conditions to preferred ones. Right? So if you look at in this world, we think we have innovated something big, but what you would have done is you would have taken some form of something which is in some form and converted it into something else, right? So Apple phone or whatever, whichever bigger innovation, right? God has created some of the things, and scientists use those material that is available, right, in the nature, converted it into some form, and we keep converting from one form to another, and that process is called design, right? So design, if I ask the question, is it how it looks or how it works? What would be the answer? Again, I get two answers, right? Some people will say how it looks, some people will say how it works, right? But the more the how it looks, right? Example, right? What do you want? A car which looks very nice from outside, but very difficult to drive. Do you want that? No, right? You would prefer a car that's easy to drive. So how it works is more important than how it looks, right? So in our younger days, we give preferences to how it looks, right? But once you are married, you want compatibility with your spouse, right? How it works, a relationship has to work. So that's a difference. How it works makes a bigger difference, and you need to focus more on how it works. But if you have good looks also, right? Let's say Apple, right? It has good looks and it works very well. You create a brand, and the brand affinity will give you higher revenue and higher margin, right? So you need to focus on both, but if given a choice, focus on how it works. So design is more about how it works. Okay. So what is design thinking? Right? Design thinking is a problem solving and discovery methodology using creative thinking, right? So there are hundreds of definition on what is design thinking, right? The key thing that you need to remember is design thinking helps you to discover problems and solve the problem in a creative way. For example, right, I have been working in the industry for a long time, and what I feel, right, we are very good at solving problems. If somebody gives us a problem, we solve it, right? But are we good at discovering problems? So if we have to discover the problems, what should we be doing? So this is what design thinking helps you, right? It's human centric, data driven, experimental. It enables you to do to come up with some out of the box solutions, right? So I'll explain how this is done. It's structured, and it helps you to kind of develop your innovators skill, which is experiment, network, observe, associate, etc. Question. And then this has been successfully used to deliver new products and services. I have used it to develop one of the products within HPE, but there are means tons of success, right, when applied in the right way, where new products and services have come out, and the experiences delivered to the customers are also pretty good, right? And the last thing is it reduces the risk and deal in the VUCA world. Right? Everything, as I said, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and sometimes things change so fast. You need to know your customers' requirement very well, and you need to design and deliver, discover the problems and deliver fast. Otherwise, if you're not there early enough, you don't win in the market. So this design thinking process helps you to achieve all those things, right? I'll explain the process in detail as we go. So where has this been successfully used, right? Multiple places, consumer goods, education services, banking, healthcare, tech companies, and even for personal and self-improvement, right? The concepts of design thinking can be used. And I have successfully used, if I get time, I'll explain I'll take one or two examples, right? So let me give you some examples of something that is very easy to understand of how design thinking has helped, right? So one example is healthcare. So design thinking involves around, as I said, right, problem discovery, experimentation, problem solution, out of the box thinking, and it also involves experimentation, prototype, and testing. One key use case was healthcare industry. So what happened was, as you know, cancer is I think we have more and more cases of cancer recently, and young children are also being impacted with cancer. So what happened in the hospitals was when you bring in young children for scanning, it was to take a long time because you were not supposed to move when you're scanning. And as soon as the children were brought into the scanning near the scanning equipment, right, they used to start crying because they knew something is going to happen. They were uncomfortable. They started moving around, and to take one scan sometimes it used to take right, hours together, right? And this was very very demoralizing for both the parents and the nurses and everybody in the hospital because they couldn't see the suffering of the people. So they formed a cross functional team. They tried to understand everything about what's wrong in the environment. They interviewed the nurses, psychiatrist was involved. They interviewed the parents, and then they finally came up with a good solution, right? So what they did was, as soon as you bring the kid to the hospital for scanning, they made him or her wear some right, as though they are going to uh, let's say Disneyland theme parks, and they had the machines designed in the form of like underground pirates house, etc., etc. So they thought that they are actually going and playing inside these equipments, and then they were told not to move, and they thought they are playing the game. And finally they were able to kind of make the experience much better for all the people involved there, as well as improve the productivity, right? Again, system thinking, where they kind of formed a cross-functional team, understood what the real problem needs, motivations of the key stakeholders, and they were able to design solutions, right? So design thinking helps you in doing systems thinking. Another example was, right, how Indira, Pepsi CEO, came up with Diet Pepsi. So she used to go to the canteen, and she was observing people come and collect food next to her, and also eating food. And she started observing that even though there was Pepsi stock, right, people were preferring and drinking water, right? And they were ordering water. And they said, why is this, right? We are a Pepsi company. This is a story, right? I'm just little bit adding structure to the story. But then she kind of started questioning, right? Why is this happening? Why are our own employees preferring water over Pepsi? Then she figured out that, right, people have become diet conscious, and sugar and other issues came up. And then she said that, okay, I think if this is what is the need of my employees, should be the need of multiple everyone around. They did research, they found, and that's how Diet Pepsi came in, right? So observation, applying that user research, and that's how that they came up with the problem. So there are many such success stories. In the interest of time, I'll skip through. Main thing is discover unmet needs, right? Sometimes, many times, the startups fail because they don't know whether this is the need, right? Somebody tells this is the need, and we just take it for granted and we start working on the solution. But the needs would have changed, right? The motivations may be different, because one thing is clear, right? Our communication skills are not perfect, right? In the sense, what we think and what we may be telling is maybe completely different, because we don't have the right skills, because our mother tongue is different, we have to speak in a different language, etc. So there are a lot of other challenges, and sometimes we can't communicate what is in our head, right, in the most probable way. So some many times we translate the requirements, we do something else, and it doesn't work, right? Design thinking can be used to solve complex problems. So I'll just give an example of a complex problem, right? If I say, why is India not innovative enough, right? Because we have a good IT community here, but let's say, or I want to say, improve the Make in India, Design in India, and other initiatives by 50%. That's my objective. How can I do that? It's so complex. It's a right. If you have to solve the problem, I don't know where to start, right? Because it has too many human-centric needs. It has government. We don't know where to start the problem. And if you ask two people, they may tell you two different problems and contradict each other. That's when design thinking is useful, because you start off with a process of collecting data, right? Understanding the context. And this is the word that I think Sudhindra also used in the morning. Understanding why, what is happening, and then you formulate the problems and start working on the solution. Right? So there are, as I said, right, if you Google, there are multiple methodologies described in right in different documents. So there is a 5-phase methodology, there is 3-phase methodology, there is a 7-phase methodology, but this one is the most popular one that defines what design thinking is, right? So it's a 5-phase methodology. It's non-linear and iterative. Iterative in the sense, right, you just have to keep doing this until you get the right answer. And it is non-linear means it doesn't mean that from define phase I have to always go to ideate phase. Sometimes you from prototype you can come back to define, depending on how the problem and what you find during this methodology, right? If the phase has a certain meaning. I'll explain what happens in each of these phases. When in the empathy phase, we are trying to understand the context, understand the human needs, right? Understand what are the contradiction, what are the user needs, what is the why are we seeing such a certain behavior. So those things are done in the empathize phase. In the define phase, we define a clear problem, right? Unless and until you have a clear problem that you can relate to a user, we don't proceed in the design thinking phase, right? In the ideate phase, we kind of encourage creative thinking. This is not about many times, right? If you look at what happens, as soon as you find the first solution, you stop. You think you are happy, you found the solution, you just go and implement, right? In the design thinking philosophy, it's about, right? We go, we want to look at all possible options, right? Quantity over quality in this phase of ideation. We have, explore all possibilities, use out of the box thinking, and then we finalize on the right ideas. Prototype and test, right? This is where bias to action comes into picture. We prototype, we may have assumptions, we want to test the behavior because what they may have told us and what we have internalized may be different from what the user is really thinking. So to make sure that we are fast enough, we work on the right problem, and we fail fast, we work on the prototype and the test phases also. So the design thinking in a nutshell is uh, common sense, but many times we don't apply our common senses in, right, common sense in real life. And when I explain to explain the steps, you will feel that yeah, we should be doing it, but normally we don't do it many times. Okay, so let me go through. Okay, I'll maybe stop for 2 3 minutes to take any questions. If you have any doubts so far before I deep dive into the phases, please let me know. Aisha, are there any questions in the chat window that we can take now?
Yes, we do have some questions. Uh, okay, the questions are how about collaborating with new people? So it's a little vague. Then about market and technology scanning is really being done by observe network and questioning to an extent. I'm just forwarding it to your chat.
Okay, let me take a look. I need to go to chat and personal
I
chat, right?
also urge all participants to please submit their
Embed.
questions on the chat box so that Suhas can timely, take a look at it and reply to all of those in the middle. I mean,
How
as
we
and when he goes along with the workshop.
questioning by discussing. Okay, there are four or five. Okay, questioning by discussing the ideas with other people and experiment by doing some live project. Yes, right. I'll give you an analogy, right? Try this out. Let's say you get an idea. Talk to five different people about your idea. Ask them some inputs, right? So I always have 100% of the times, if you talk to the right people, your idea is going to become bigger, right? Uh, I give this analogy. Let's say you have ingredients to cook a cake, right? So suppose you do it alone, you get a cupcake, right? Suppose I do it with five people, right, whom you like and whom you think you can work with each other, and they have diverse perspectives. It becomes a birthday cake, have a lot of good toppings, and you get a bigger share of the cake, right? Eventually. But what I have seen happen in the, especially in big enterprises, is that we want to win alone most of the times, right? We are scared to share our ideas, and that actually inhibits right, how the idea can expand. So questioning by discussing the ideas with other people and experimenting with live projects, these are good ways to kind of build up your innovation skills, right? uh, how it suits my requirement, I don't understand that part. Scanning is really being done by networking and questioning to an extent than market. So scanning is really done by network and questioning to an extent. See, whatever I'm telling that, right? So market research reports, there are readily available market research reports that you can also scan to figure out what is happening around the problem that you want to solve, right? So as engineers, right? Whether you are students are expected, right, as I said, industry needs, especially in the context of what is happening in India, we need more and more innovators, right? We need good people who can execute, but we need more and more innovators, right? Because we need to create the jobs. Second, market research reports are available. I'm just trying to explain based on what I understood in the question. It's available. You need to scan. You need to understand who are the competitors. Those are all standard parts. If you want to especially do a startup, if you don't know, right, collaborate with somebody who can help you. That's where you need to have the right network, right? LinkedIn helps you. in certain types of network. Networking here is talking about exchanging ideas, building upon ideas, and going to the market together. So this that requires a different type of networking. It is not for you to get a job, right? So means what I'm saying is all the things that is mentioned here you could do either being within a big company or in a startup. And if you are a student, you need to start practicing some of these things beginning now, right? You can, for example, the projects that you execute in your colleges, you could apply design thinking there, right? You could be creative enough. You could look at apply right. For example, how do I improve engagement in a college function, right? That's a problem. That maybe the objective is there, improve 50%, right? You need to talk to people why certain people don't participate in your college annual day celebrations, blah blah blah, right? Look different perspectives, brainstorm, right? Understand maybe what happened in the past. That could be your market research. So you can apply some of these concepts in a different way. Some of the questions are not clear. How is the design thinking emphasis on IT industry? How is design thinking emphasis on IT industry? As I said, design thinking is being used in many different. Google is using design thinking, right? Big companies are using design thinking. HP is doing design thinking. So design thinking can be means once I explain the process, it becomes clear. You can apply it on any problem, right? But assuming, let's say you are working on a product within a big enterprise, you don't get to meet customers, you can still use some of the concepts like ideate, right? Well, don't stop when the first idea comes into picture, right? When you are doing a UI UX product, right, which has a graphical interface, mobile phone, ensure that you take your initial prototype early to the users, get feedback, rather than developing everything and then when you take back to the to your users, customers, then you feel that you're not met the requirements, right? So these are some of the things that you can still apply uh, to right IT school level. When we need a paradigm change, but at what stage we need to start, right? I think when you are lacking a design thinking at a school level itself, definitely, right? This is a big change. Lacking design thinking at a school level, we need a paradigm change, right? It's a cultural change. We need to start. Means I was reading some article and the CBSE or some curriculum, right? They're trying to propose new skills to be added in the school time frame. It's just not going to be engineers, right? They don't want to just encourage everybody to become engineers or doctors. They want to give exposure to students on different professions possible, right? That's a good move. And this skill, I think for India, I mean, this is not because I am passionate about innovation, but we need to teach this at a very young age, right? And if practiced at a very young age, by the time you come to the industry, you are mature, right? And you can be the next Elon Musk or right Steve Jobs of the world, and that's what we need to aim for. We need to encourage people to think different and also collaborate, right? Diverse perspectives, inclusion and diversity. There are so many aspects when you have to really be good at innovating and build a large company. Okay, so I'll stop the questions for now. I'll move on. Maybe most of the other questions will get answered as we go. Okay, so the first phase is of design thinking. I said five-step process, empathy. Okay, so read this line. Please, people ignore design that ignore people. I like this. And so if you ignore people, they ignore your product, right? That's what this line says. So question is, what is empathy? So if I ask the question, what is empathy? Again, I get different answers, right? So next question I'll ask you, just think, right, for a minute. So what is empathy according to you? Just think. What is sympathy? Okay, so you'll have some answers. Is there a difference between sympathy and empathy? If so, what? Right? So what we are looking at here, right, in the design thinking phase, it's about empathy. So empathy is right, put yourselves into other shoes, look at what they feel, look at their needs, motivations, difficulties, why are they behaving the way they are behaving. So you need to have a different mindset if you have to empathize, right? Two examples of empathy and sympathy, right? This is what I could relate to, right? So let's say your friend calls you and he or she says she's in right, there was something happened and she's in a bad shape. He or she is in a bad shape. So what do you do, right? If you say I'm very sorry, take care, and hang up the phone, that's sympathy, right? But if you go to your friend's place, right, comfort her, or him, take her out and do all the necessary things to make sure that he or she comes out of that whatever trauma is, that's empathy, right? And empathy is you felt the need, right? You took action, right? Most of the times we sympathize, that's but what we need is empathy to really understand the behavior, because once you understand the behavior and the problem, you can design the right solution, right? So another example, right, it is the research, that means I was doing the research, I was still trying to apply in my own life, right? And I observed, right, when my wife says I have a headache, right, she comes with an amrutanjan and she's ready to spend time with me putting amrutanjan right on my head. But whenever, right, she tells I have a headache, I just say, "Hey, there is Saridon there, please take it," right? And so that's a big difference, right? And women are generally perceived as a little bit higher, they have higher level of empathy. And if you look at in the industry, that's where there's a drive to have diverse perspective, inclusion and diversity, which is going on across the world, because we want to deliver personalized experience. We want to honor the diverse perspectives. We need diverse talent to deliver to the modern enterprise, right? So if you see the hiring patterns, everything deep down, if you look at the diversity, diverse perspectives is very important, right? And empathy is also required. And when you bring in diverse people, you normally have empathy, right? Certain culture and tradition. So that's empathy. So you need to have empathy. And the question is, okay, so the empathy is, what is the goal of empathy, right? And what is the ideal balance they need to achieve, right? So if you have an idea, right, an idea, if it can balance desirability, feasibility and viability, then you have the right idea. So desirability is, right, whether it's really desirable, right, by the humans. Feasibility is if you're a startup or let's say you're an enterprise, do you have the technology in place to take this idea to the market? And viability is, okay, once I take the more idea to the market, is it feasible? Does it have a business model where I can make money? Because finally, at the end of the day, whatever idea you have, you have to make money because you have to create value. As I said, innovation is about where creating value where the customers are going to pay you. So an ideal goal is to create the balance, and in the empathy phase, you are trying to get the desirability aspect, right, by interfacing with the right stakeholders. So, do you know what this is? Okay, maybe most of you don't know. This is Google Glass, right? Publicly available. There are articles around why this failed, right? Do you know this was a cool piece of technology? I think all of you know. It was voice activated, and right, you could tell it to take photo, video, etc. And it means it was a cool piece of device. It was not a big hit, right? And the reason was it was not designed for looking at the empathy of the needs, the user needs. Two things, right? What happened was since it was voice activated and you have to constantly tell it to do something. Let's say you are walking in a crowded place and you keep talking to yourself, right? That is awkward, and you don't feel good when others are staring at you, right? So that was one thing that was not ideal for people who are wearing it. And for the people who were on the other side, right, since the camera was protruding outside, they were feeling awkward. Just imagine you would take this Google Glass to a beach, and right, people will start staring at you because they don't know whether you're recording anything, etc., etc., right? And so this product was not a big hit. So the empathy, emotional needs of the people, the behavior understanding was not done. This was almost ready to be launched, and then I think this was kind of discontinued at that time, right? Again, this illustrates the need for empathy. I have other key use case, right, with very interesting. In Denmark, you can relate to old age homes were there, and they found that the old age people living in old age houses were malnourished, right, by a large percent. And immediately, what do you do, right? If you find out, okay, there is malnourishment, first thing you do is, okay, let's add more vitamins and proteins, etc., to the food, and I think it'll get fixed. They didn't do that, right? They didn't do that, and they wanted to understand what is the problem behind, because they were already giving good food, and the food was being supplied by the government, right, in the old age homes. So what they figured out was when they went deep, right, when they this is called systems thinking, right? They were wanted to understand the complete ecosystem. So the kitchen where the food was being prepared, right, the chefs were they wanted to work in five-star hotels, and they were working in these kitchens, and it was not considered as a great profession, so they were demotivated, right? The food, the trucks and the people who were transporting the food, when they were giving it to the old people, they were not right. There is no connection because they were also not very motivated enough. And if you look at the old age home, the people, right, they didn't want to eat the food that was given by the government, right? And they were feeling they were not very comfortable. They expected the relatives to take care of them, and there was some needs of the people also there. So what they did was, when they did they formed a group, they tried to understand and did a full systematic thinking from end to end, and they fixed they finally came with a solution where they modernized the kitchen, right, where they gave they called them chefs. They gave them the coat and all the stuff to make them feel good about it. There was a menu. The menu kept changing. They redid the whole truck, right, and they made sure that the notes each time when they deliver something to the old age people, they just take feedback from the old age people, and the folks who deliver the food were trained to be more friendly and maybe talk to the people just like, right, how they would feel a relative coming and giving them food. And what happened was a dramatic transformation of the morale as well as the problem was solved, right? Again, sometimes we take a, I think I saw the symptom, I'll give you a solution, but when you look at the root cause, the problem could be different, and that's what design thinking helps you to look at things. So how do you develop empathy, right? You need to be empathetic. Emotional quotient and empathy is kind of related, and if you have high emotional quotient and high IQ, you grow higher in the corporate world, right? So empathy is important. How do you empathize? Conduct interviews. So if you have users, you have stakeholders, conduct interviews with empathy. I'll give you some tips on how to do that. Engage with extreme users. So who are extreme users? Let's say you are in the process of modernizing a retail shop, right? Who are your extreme users, right? It could be a mother with four kids coming together to the retail shop, right? She has to manage all the four kids, and she has to again shop, and right, the experience, that's an extreme user. Let's say you are in the business of designing a knife. Who are your extreme users, right? It could be the newlywed couple, because they have not cooked and they have to learn to cook. So the way they use the knife is going to be different from a chef will use, right? And then if you start observing these extreme users, sometimes you get to understand unmet needs, right? Their needs are different, and when you design for the extreme users, you're actually helping the majority of the people also. So your product becomes better. Example, right? This was something I read, very easy to relate to. Let's say you're in the business of coming up with specs, right? And they found that there were people who had burns, right? And they had a tough time wearing the specs, right? And when they designed the product to make sure that they can cater to the audience, the majority of the population also experience the benefits. So sometimes you have to look at soon to be non-customers of your product, non-customers who are not using your product, and people who use your product in the not the ideal way, right? They kind of abuse the product. So that's very important to talk to them. Observe when people are doing the job, right? So keen observation when you're developing a, product, right? User interface, web application, mobile application. Give them early. Try to see what pain they undergo through. Observe their emotions, right? Are they frustrated? Their facial expressions. So that's one way of getting empathy. And sometimes do it yourself, right? So I mean, this COVID taught me one thing, right? I started sweeping. I started seeing my the pain that my wife undergoes to cook the food, and like, right, when I started doing it, I realized how tough it is, right? And I have swept the floors very in my younger ages. I have done that, but now, right, then you start empathizing. You and let's say you are modernizing a restaurant, right? And you see the waiters carrying all these things, and they're scared of something will fall, etc. So when you do that, right, when you follow what your users are doing it, right, you can empathize and maybe take the right actions, because you'll activate your senses, right, and that will make you understand the problems and come up with the right solutions. Mindset required for empathy phase, right? Most of us are biased. We think we know, right? But in the empathy phase, you have to wear a beginner's mindset, right? You may be the expert in that area, but when you go and try to gather feedback, you need to get this mindset, right? This is where half of it is half of the empathy will fail because we think we know. We are the kind of questions we ask is we want the answers that suits us, right? But here the philosophy is I want to learn more, right? Look for emotional unmet needs. Listen. Very, very important listening skills, right? So in the empathy phase, 90% of the times you need to listen, and 10% of the times when you interview, you need to talk, right? Abandon your ego, don't judge. So these are some of the things that you have to follow in the empathy phase. So now let's assume you are doing an interview, right? The important job and the difficult job is never to find the right answers, right? It is find the right question. So this is very, very powerful statement. Asking the right question is often very, very difficult, right? And this is something that you all have to learn, right? To become good innovators, good developers, and right, to be good at whatever you do. So before you do an user interview, right, there could be different types of stakeholders. Before you do the interview, write down the question, group the questions in themes. These are some best practices. Eliminate redundant questions. Identify the stakeholders. So who are the key people in the journey for the problem that you are solving, whom you will interview and ask the questions, right? And look for extreme users. So I have some examples to share, right? Good tips. What you need to do during questioning: ask question neutrally, right? Many times let me start off with a question, right? So let's say you don't assume that Facebook is used for XYZ. Ask the question, why do you use Facebook? Start off with very, very open-ended question, and make them tell a story and start observing. So most of the design thinking, when you do empathize, right, you always do it in pairs. So you have somebody who's asking questions and somebody who will make notes, so that you kind of get everything about the customer. Ask only one question at a time. So I see people struggle to ask questions, right? Long questions, more than 10 words. By the time, right, you forget what the question was, right? And when we have these big talks, and when you have CEOs coming in from US, right, I've seen people ask long questions. So we need to practice that. It's not a problem, because yeah, our mother tongue is different. We are translating sometimes our mother tongue, whatever we think in mother tongue, into English. But these are some things that need to work on, right? And preparation helps you to develop all these skills. Don't suggest answer to your question. So sometimes they stop, and then you pause and give the answer away, right? So during, you should never, right? Silence is golden. Don't interrupt. Let them the emotions flow, let the story flow, and capture the insights, right? Very, very, very important tip for questioning, right? So a case study. Let's assume I give a design objective: reduce impact to citizens due to Delhi's poor air quality. So if I give this problem to you guys, right, whom will you talk to? Right, you will have to, as I said, identify the stakeholders who may be involved in this problem. You need to understand what is happening, right? Why is there, yeah, we know a lot of vehicles are there, but then there may be other aspects, right? Industry, maybe government policies, and how is it impacting people. So you have to empathize with people who are healthy, as well as people who may have asthma and lung issues, right? So these could be your extreme users. You talk to street workers, understand their pain points, and once you collect the data, right? I'm just giving an example of how you need to think. So when you have a complex problem, this is how, right, you form the questionnaire, you talk to the people, and you get a perspective, right? And then start visualizing in your head, and you know what's happening. And that's the context that you need to be successful in coming up with the right problems and solutions, right? Another example: improve work-life balance for IT employees in Bangalore while delivering to modern economy needs, right? So till COVID, right, like our life in Bangalore sucked because of traffic, etc. So let's assume that we have to be still productive, but then there's an initiative to improve work-life balance. Whom do you interview, right? There are different kinds of stakeholders, different needs. We need to understand all their things. We need to understand the managers. We need to understand the management, HR, right? And when you talk to them, you get a perspective, and then, right, you collect all the data, and then you can start distilling what are the problems, right? What are the real problems? Okay, so there are a lot of templates that are available for you to capture when you interview, when you observe, right? So if you're interviewing UI UX, or right, generally talking about the questioning, you can capture what they say, what they do, and you can start writing down what you think, right? They are thinking. Sometimes what they say and what they think may be different, and when they are doing something, what they feel, they will not be able to tell, right? They may show some emotions, but you're capturing all the emotional aspects also in these templates. There are a lot of such templates available, but the basic thing is do the right thing, right? To go with the mindset that you're You don't know anything, and gather feedback. At the end of empathy phase, what happens normally in a problem, right? Let's say IEEE modernization, right, or IEEE attempts increasing engagement by 50%. Let's say I give the problem, right? So what you do is, okay, you want to interview people, you don't give a market survey, but you want to meet people and observe, right? That's a difference between design thinking. You develop different personas, stakeholders, collect their feedback. You maybe videotape, right, people coming to conferences, right? Let's assume it's a live conference, their experience, etc. So you, I mean, I'm just giving an example. You capture all the data. That's the end of the empathy phase, right? And once the empathy phase is there, you have all the inputs. You may have stories, you may have videos, you may have lots of notes. You go to the define phase, right? And one key thing, right? Many times the ideas fail because we start loving the solution rather than the problem, right? And what I have found is when you fall in love with the problem, right, and you stay with the problem, you get multiple solutions. Sometimes we get the idea and then we fit the idea to a problem, and then even if that is a case, start liking the problem because if you want to solve the problem, right? If you are focused enough, you'll get multiple opportunities and solutions. This is a good quote. Majority of the ideas fail because it does not solve a real problem or don't know whom they are solving for. So one of the major reasons why our startups fail so often is because of this reason, right? It doesn't solve a real problem, or it's a copied solution from some other, right? Let's say US has already developed the idea, we try to copy it for our, right, culture. It doesn't work, right? You need to sometimes adopt those solutions to the needs of the people here, right? It needs to be personalized, as I said. So this is one of the reasons. And then sometimes you don't know who you are solving for, you don't know your audience, right? So what do we do in the define phase? As I said, just imagine you have all the data, right? You have collected a lot of interview feedback, you have noted down their expressions, you have done videos of how they are interacting in their environment, and then you start synthesizing this information to come up with what we call as insights and inferences, right? These could be unmet needs, these could be contradictions between two statements that they made. And once you kind of analyze all this information in a group, actually you do have to do all these things are done in a group. You come up with this, you come up with what you call as a point of view statement, right? So what is a POE statement, right? POE statement has three elements: user, needs, insights, right? So user is the stakeholder that you are you have your solution. There is a need, right? User could be your, let's say, asthma patient, or it lung patient, as we said, or it could be the street workers, or it could be the government officials for Delhi pollution case, right? Needs, what do they exactly need, right? Based on knowledge of what do they need, and because, right, what is the insight, why do they need this, has to also be captured in the same sentence. So once you have a carefully crafted problem based on insights, your major problem is solved, because if you can define the problem to the best possible way, you have a better chance of succeeding in your ideation and the innovation phase, right? So that's what is called as point of view. So let's say you have a statement, user needs, I have an example, right? Because, so once you have, you may have, when you do the study, you may have multiple such user needs because statements, right? Because you find there are a lot of needs that are there. For each of the user needs statement, you start coming up with what we call as how might we statements, right? So how might we statements are statements that will actually help you to start ideating. So I'll show the example, right? What is what significance of how might we is how might we solve this problem, right? That's how it comes down to. It's has to be broad enough for you to ideate. It cannot be too narrow. And the significance of how might we is how indicates that you are not you don't think that there is already a solution, right? You are exploring solutions. Might means you don't stop at when you get the first solution, you just keep on going iteratively until you run out of ideas. V means it's a teamwork, right? When you put in diverse group of people, right? Let's say you are in a big enterprise, right? If you put an R&D engineer, a manager, a supply chain, HR folks with different experience and give them a problem to solve, right? You will start seeing the magic of how things connect, and that's where associativity happens. Okay. So I have an example, right? Let's say your objective is improve government services net promoter score. I just came up with this very simple thing. And during all the interviews with both government and officials, you find that adult citizen of India, this is the user, needs access to faster, always accessible and more transparent government services, which we think we need because, right, the motivation or the insight, right? What is really happening here? Current panel process encourages corruption, very bureaucratic, lead to frustration and waste of precious time. So I just made it pretty long, but that's how, right? You know the motivation, why the needs are there, etc., etc. And for this statement, I can come up with few how might we statements, right? So how might we deliver government secure citizen services that are completely transparent, right? I mean, this may imply when we ideate blockchain and use of other technologies, but just right, we need a transparent service. How might we improve the government services by making it fast with no manual overheads? So again, it's broad enough for us to do brainstorming. How might we reduce the frustration of Indian citizens while consuming government services and delivering it on the choice of devices like mobile phones, right? So again, right, there are a lot of aspects that can come in. There is a technology element here in the how might we, but sometimes you have to balance out and make sure that it is broad enough for you to do the ideation. So you kind of end this phase when you have these problem statements where you can go and ideate. Okay, same examples, right? Some HMW statements for the pollution problem. How might we create a smart early warning system with personalized recommendations on air pollution impact? How might we reduce the air pollution during the peak traffic and industry production period? That could be another problem statement you can brainstorm on. How might we create a solution to monitor and publish air quality real time? So this was what came out in the workshop that I did, right? But these are some things that will help you to ideate differently, and I'll teach you some of the ideation techniques so that you get a good number of ideas. Right? So empathize phase, you interviewed, you observed, right? You did it yourself, you captured all the insights, right? In the define phase, you're methodically analyzing, synthesized it, right? Figured out the unmet needs. You crafted the point of view, which is user needs, insights, and then you came up with how might we statements that are broad enough for you to do the ideation, right? That's the end of define phase. Okay. So this the next phase is the ideate phase. Right? This is where the fun starts, right? It's very very important because this phase you can use it for any problem, right? You have a well-defined problem, you can use this. So what happens in the ideate phase, right? To invent, you need a good imagination and a pile of junk, right? This is what Edison said, and Edison had tons of ideas, right? Never made it anywhere, but then he was a person who used to have he used to always think you need pile of junk to come up with good ideas. And many of the ideas that I have been able to patent came because somebody came and asked a very very stupid question actually, which triggered a thought process in my head. It was one element of it, and I was able to associate with my experience and build on it, right? It's very very important that sometimes when a junior engineer or somebody comes and to ask a question, right, don't cut them immediately, because understand the intent, and even if it's a not so good idea, right, make them research on their own so that they develop the skills, right? So very easy to say, "Ah, it doesn't work," okay, because maybe you didn't see the idea properly, or you didn't understand and evaluate the idea properly, right? That's a tip that all of you, when you start growing in the enterprise, should follow, right? And sometimes, as I said, right, many great ideas come from some small so some piece of value idea that doesn't have any value. So what is ideation, right? Ideation is the capability for generating, developing, actualizing, and communicating ideas. Very very important, right? All aspects. You need to generate, you need to develop, and you need to be able to communicate the idea properly, right? And that's where storytelling got covered in the morning, right? Very very important. And so you should be able to communicate ideas properly. You can use storytelling. Storytelling can be used in many places, right? When you are doing the problem definition, right? When you collect the user stories, you can put that into stories so that you can inspire your teammates to think differently and visualize what's happening. Use problem statements. So you have come up with the how might we statements, right? So you start thinking out of the box. So what does out of the box thinking mean, right? Many times we say, hey, think laterally. So how do you think laterally? So I'll tell you some of the things, some of the tips, right? How you can think laterally later on in the presentation. In this phase, you focus on volume and variety of ideas, right? You don't stop at the first idea. Every idea is a good idea, and when you're doing this in a time constrained manner, you don't give 20 hours to come up with the ideation. It has to be time bound, 30 minutes. And when you do that, right, you start seeing some patterns emerging. right? Embrace misunderstanding and don't evaluate, be playful, right? Very, very important in the ideation phase. And if I ask this question, means 90% of the audience who are there, have you done a brainstorming session in the last, let's say, 6 months? May not be, right? And we don't follow this actively. We are mostly focused on execution, and even in the college times, right? We need to cultivate some of these things. And this is how we can make our next generation entrepreneurs from India can come out, right? The best way is to have lots of ideas. Okay, so I'll teach you maybe three or four tips, right? Four tools that you can use for ideation. First tool, right? Brainstorming, right? Everybody knows what is brainstorming, but we don't do it properly, right? So what happens is, in a brainstorming there is a dominant person sometimes, right? I've seen that happen. And when you say brainstorm on the idea, right, the one or two persons will keep coming up with the idea. The rest of the people will stay quiet because they don't get a chance. And many times what happens is when somebody comes up with the idea, right, the silent person comes up with the idea, the dominant person will start judging, right? Or sometimes it happens if you don't have a proper moderator, it uh, it doesn't work out, right? Because that's where moderation is very important. And the discipline with all the people in the brainstorming team is very important. And if you have that, what normally happens is you automatically start connecting the dots, right? Associativity happens. So let's say example, right? Means you can practice this. If we had a workshop, live workshop, I would have shown you what happens, right? When you start discussing an idea, sometimes if you listen to the other person's viewpoint, right, and try to build on top of it, actually you get a thought process that's very different from what you normally think, right? And that is what is out of the box thinking. Sometimes we box ourselves in certain criterias because we have assumptions, right? We think put some forms to certain objects, but when some people start asking questions and start changing the context, you start thinking out of the box and come out of your normal process of thinking, right? And brainstorming, when you do it properly, it gives you that power, right? If you want to help the other person develop his idea, even if it is not good or good, go with the flow, right? And you will start seeing some surprising thing coming out. Okay? Let's assume that you have a team. A team is not well baked, and it means you don't know how the team is going to do the brainstorming. You can, and you are doubtful, you can start with what we call as brain dump activity. This is how we usually brainstorm. So what happens is you give them chits and you say whatever idea comes to your head, just write it down. Right? You have next 15 minutes or so. So by doing this, the cross pollination or the connectivity doesn't happen. But when you start collecting the ideas, right? So everybody gets a chance to present their ideas because they write it in a chat. So there is no crosstalk happening or suppression happening. But then after that, you can group the ideas together and you a little bit of brainstorming to do some connectivity. This works well many places because it doesn't involve any team dynamics. Another interesting tool is called brain write activity, right? So this is interesting. So let's assume you want to bring in little bit of brainstorm and brain dump, right? You can use this brain write activity. What happens is you write your idea and pass it on to the next person, and he or she has to develop on this idea, right? They can't junk it or anything. They have to develop something on top of the idea. So again, right, the dominant person doesn't take over the whole meeting. But here, since you're not dumping your own ideas and then you giving others to develop the idea. Pretty powerful if done in the right way, right? Uh, Another tool, worst possible idea, right? Interesting idea. So example is many times, right? You are scared because you think that if you tell something, it may look stupid, right? And you just keep quiet. So this is kind of helps you to lighten up the team. So you start off with what we call as worst possible idea for the same problem that you're trying to solve. Ask them to come with the worst possible idea, uh, solution for that problem, right? And people go all over the place, they open up, they lighten up, right? The mind becomes more calmer, they'll smile, they laugh, etc., right? And then what happens is you can take all these bad ideas, look at the attributes and convert that into positive ideas, right? Positive annotations which can be drivers for your idea also, right? So again, when used in the right way, this can give you a lot of different options and give you the quantity that you're looking for in the ideation phase. Challenge assumptions, right? Many times we have assumptions, right? So I've just listed on few things, right, which Two cars have to have a driver and a steering wheel. Right? Some the past this right would have thought driverless cars are coming up, right? Sometimes we think doors have to always should have handles, phone should have cable, a network switch, right, should always be a hardware appliance, etc., etc. And when you start questioning the assumptions, right, many times things become extreme very different, right? For example, should we always go to schools, right? I think somebody asked the question, why can't school come to you, right? And that's where e-education and other things came into picture, very very relevant in the COVID times, right? So we always used to going to schools, but then why can't school come to you, right? There's a reverse thinking, right? There's so many other tools that are very you can apply to come out of the box, start thinking differently and get more and more ideas, right? And the more you practice, you can practice some of these things individually, take a lateral thinking puzzle, plan all these means, list down all these things, ask questions, right? And if in a team, if you do it right, like-minded people, you can develop the skills. Creative pause, right? Very very important. So many times, as I said, right, when you are drained out after, let's say, brainstorming session, run out of ideas, just take a walk, right? Go around, appreciate the nature, do something very, very different. And when you come back, you get some fresh ideas, right? And as I said, the calm mind improves your chances in coming up with innovative ideas. So there was a morning session on yoga. So yoga is not it. Not mental health is very important, physical health is also important, but doing yoga and other meditation, right, it has been proven that it can help in less stress and more innovation, right? And that's interesting too. And there are other techniques, multiple techniques. One interesting technique is called scamper, right? You can go and Google about it. Very interesting. It stands for substitute, combine, adopt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, and reverse, right? So what happens if you have a product service, right? You can look at can my product can this product be substituted in some other place, right? Can I combine X, right? Can I modify and can I maximize and minify this to create a different market, right? Can I put this into other use? Can I eliminate, right? So I have used this technique successfully in many of innovations, especially in the server world. Um, I mean, but yeah, I think in the interest of time, there's a lot of material available on this. But if you successfully apply on the product and the process, you are going to come up with some new ideas which will help you to move right from your normal thinking to what we call as out of the box thinking or lateral thinking. So once you have a list of ideas, right, sometimes it's about how to select the right ideas. So what you normally do is you have to again be very democratic here, give participants 3 to 4 votes, ask them to grade on any criteria that your team comes up with, right? One of the criteria could be desirability, feasibility, and viability. You could start rating it based on these 3 criteria, and then you can pick the top ideas. Other ideas could be quick, breakthrough, and delight, right? So look at the positive aspects of how we're looking at the idea. We are not saying any idea is a bad idea because maybe it's not in the list of the priorities and it may not be feasible, but we are looking at it in a positive way. And you can archive all the other ideas because in another 2 years some of these ideas may be viable or may be feasible, right? So the quick means impactful ideas, quick to implement. Breakthrough means I mean, technology may not be there, and delight means this is what I think customers will be liking, right? And so quick idea means there may not be any innovation, major innovation, but delight if you can do it, that's where I think you can make some money and differentiate your product. So the end of ideation phase, you have a list of ideas, right, that you think is well formulated, and you have prioritized list of ideas. And this is where, right, in the morning we had the innovation, right, intellectual property. You need to start looking at if some of these ideas is worthy for of protecting through a patent application, right? Most of the ideas, right, in the enterprise world, you normally file a patent, right? Trade secrets are pretty rare, so most of us will work on patents, and definitely if you do a good job, you will have few patentable ideas. As I said, for filing a patent application, you just need to know how to implement. You don't have to implement it, so you can still go and file a patent if you have a good idea which is novel, non-obvious, and useful. So we did the empathy, we defined the problem clearly, we used different ideation tools, right? We went for quantity, have prioritized a list of ideas, and then we are now in the prototype phase, right? And why do we need the prototype phase? Very important. You don't innovate through PowerPoint, you innovate by building things, right? So this is important. I think Linus also has some quote saying that code don't talk or something, right? So bias to action is very important, especially in the modern world. As I said, everybody will have ideas, right? It's about how quickly can you work on the right problem and deliver the problem, which suits a particular set of audience, right, whom you're targeting in the best possible way. They will be the winners, right? So you have to have bias for action. It can't be in PPT and you keep talking of the idea for many months in the PPT. That means that it's old and stale. That's how how fast the world is moving. So in the prototype phase, what do we do, right? We demonstrate bias to action. We quickly start building something, right, to prove, to test whether our assumptions are really assumptions, to test whether the behavior and the insight that we derived from doing the synthesis in the define phase is really true, right? To understand more about the user, so we can do all those things. So benefits of prototype is empathize. We want to empathize with the user better. We want to test our assumptions, and we want to decide on 5 possible solutions that we have, right? Let's assume you come up with 2 or 3 solutions and you are confused and you want to pick one of the solutions. You can do a quick prototype, right? Very important here is not the prototype, like you build the product completely. This has to be very fast and cheap. That is what is different from the normal way we work. Types of prototype, very low cost, right? Rough and quick to build. Sometimes you can do a paper based model, Lego based model to convey the solution, right? Even I think there are times to understand and internalize the solution. You can do, you can, we have seen people do a skit also, right? And sometimes after doing the skit, people understand, everybody in the team understand what the solution is all about, right? So very low cost, so you understand, appreciate the solution, you know what's really happening. Medium and high fidelity prototypes are, especially when you're doing a UI UX or product, right? Graphical user interface, you can use wireframes. Many teams don't, means many teams still don't actively use it. Quick wireframes, it doesn't have any color and etc. It tells you how the screen will look and where are you placing all the widgets, and then you can put in the colors to give it a good feel of how it may look. So these are the medium fidelity prototypes, and then you can even put some steps and show how the flow of information is, right? And that's a high fidelity prototype. And you do this, and once you do this, you do it for a purpose. As I said, you want to decide on multiple solutions. You want to get understand with the user behavior that you thought is, or you have an assumption is valid. So you want to go back to the user as quickly as possible and start a conversation, right? So you have built the prototype, right? And then you go to the testing phase. So in the testing phase, the mindset is prototype as if you know you are right, but test as if you know you are wrong. Very important, right? What happens normally I've seen is, since you have you've done your homework, you built a prototype, you start getting attached to your idea, right? And you start going to a defensive mode, right? You're not ready to get the user feedback. You start getting closed and closed, right? Because you think you're solving the right problem. So in the test phase, again, the mindset is important, right? Solicit feedback, verify assumptions, learn more about users, refine your point of view, right? If you think something is not right, user needs and motivations are different, you should be ready to go. And this is where the non-iterative way of design thinking that I talked about applies, right? And you have to refine prototypes and solutions, right? And how do you test? So when you test, there is a process, right? Explain the goal, explain what you are trying to get out from the user, get from the user. Go with the mindset you are wrong. Look at the environment, right? The environment has to be ideal for your testing, right? So if it is not the right environment, sometimes you may not get the right answers, right? And if you don't, some many times we don't want to give destructive feedback to our customers, right? And we are kind of saying, this looks good, right? But then what we feel inside is this will not work, right? So again, very important to get them tell a story, make them very comfortable, and capture the feedback again in a very positive way, right? So for example, let's say the feedback capturing, right, which I like the most, this is what I got when I researched. I found this very interesting. I like means, I think I like what you have done. I wish is, I think this is what I think you could do. What if is about possibility, right? What if you could do this, right? If you can capture the possibilities in a positive way, it doesn't demotivate the team when you go back, because you know that okay, there were some positive aspects and the customers is wishing for this product to have more features like this, right? And then you go back to the cycle, right? This has to be a 5 day, this could be a 5 day sprint, 10 day sprint, depending on how you look at it, and you keep refining the idea until you get there and you know that you have a good problem statement and a approach to solve the problem, right? Once you do this, right, so you have done the prototype, you have the idea, then you actually start going into your development phase. And this is where, right, this was still the conceptualizing phase, understanding the context, right, the user needs, the behaviors, evaluating all the ideas, right, prototyping, testing. Now you are actually going into product launch, right? So you, if let's say you're a big company, or to go through your marketing, right, they will check for business model. This is where the viability, feasibility, and all will have more prominence. Till now, you are looking at desirability. You start looking at viability, feasibility. You look at whether we need to partner with somebody else to take this to the market, the go-to market, the route to market. Everything will be understood here. And once the product is approved in your company, then you go through the agile, DevSecOps. So these are the buzzwords that you keep hearing, right? The methodology starts here. You develop the product, design the product, right? Test the product, you move it to the pilot phase, get feedback, beta testing, everything is done, and the process continues, right? So innovation, I think somebody said in the morning also, innovation journey never ends, right? So innovation is not a goal. Innovation doesn't stop when you just reach your destination. It's a continuous journey, right? So that's where the whole process starts to continue. Okay. So let me, means I think I have three more slides, right, where I'll kind of end with a summary and call for action, and then we can take some Q&A, right? So summary, right? So why is innovation important, right? Very, very important in the context of India. Very, very important in the context of where we are right now, because as in the mornings, right, it was told this is a big opportunity. There is a disruption happening, and whenever you have disruptions or some negative things happening, you can look at the positive aspects also, right? There are areas where we can make a difference. Manufacturing may get relocated from China because of all the global tensions, and we have an opportunity. We have a lot of people around. We have the technology, but we need to start designing solutions for our farmers. There's so much opportunity, right? And at the same time, for the folks in the IT field, it's kind of certain. But this is where your emotional quotient comes into picture, right? So you need to be very, very motivated right now and not give up. This is where uh, your future will be determined, right? Your dreams maybe may have taken a setback because you can't do certain things properly. There is uncertainty, but don't give up. Keep your motivation up, keep your chin up, keep learning. Means that's the only thing you can do, and keep practicing some of the skills that I've mentioned here, right? If you are in the enterprise, there is uncertainty. Again, right? Understand your product, understand your ecosystem, right? Understand how your product from manufacturing gets delivered to the customers and it gets decommissioned. Look at the stakeholder, get the big picture and start visualizing. Very, very important when you start growing up in the organization chain, that you understand this whole picture, right? All the dynamics that happen between organizations. Know the fundamentals. Again, I think Aisha has told me that majority of the people here are going to be students. Believe me, right, there is overdose of information in the engineering colleges. When I interview people, the fundamentals are not clear. And spend time understanding the fundamentals, right? Ask the question why, right? Go to the nuts and bolts of how things work. Very, very important for innovation, because if your fundamentals are not strong, you don't have the confidence to innovate, and you'll never be able to innovate meaningfully, right? Very, very important. Market trends, competition, and if you're in an enterprise, understanding your company strategy, right? What's happening in the company, right? Why is what may happen to the company in the current state, right? And be proactive and do the right things to develop your skills. A culture of continuous learning, that's the only thing as IT professionals we can do. Look at what skills is important, both emotional quotient skills, IQ skills, problem solving skills, language skills, technology skills, right? You may have to learn and unlearn many things and learn in this current atmosphere, right? Because you don't know when we come out how different the world is going to be, right? Collaborate, right? Form some small groups, learning groups. Start talking to each other. Form a small means if you have 3 or 4 of your friends and they think, oh, let's do this brainstorming, right? And see how it really works. Look at this deck. Do something interesting, right? Come out of your comfort zones, right? This is a time when you have to come out. As I said, creativity can be developed. Everyone can be creative, right? And I am not. I am a very ordinary engineer, right? Who graduated from Mysore 25 years back. I know Harish Mysore is coming next, so I was happy to see the word Mysore. That's my hometown. But then, right? Means we were means our education system was not good, but means you can develop to be creative. I'm not saying I'm creative, but I think I have learned to think differently, and that's something that came to me with by practice, right? Practice design thinking. Again, as I said, right, if you are very serious, two things you can do is take up two skills that you want to improve and take up three actions and start following from tomorrow, right? It will take you 2 to 3 years, but that's how you grow, right? Some of the skills will not come overnight. You need to develop. These are the two quotes that I like. This quote I got it from I think Robin Sharma's book. Very interesting. Less excuses, more results, less distractions, more focus, less me, more we. This is like a punch word, a punch sentence, right? Less, do with COVID, not having COVID, right? The world is not fair enough for me. Those things just keep it aside and just move on, right? Focus on the results. Have clear focus. Don't. I think in the morning, right? There was a. I think Koshi talked about. Right, personal branding, right, how you need to kind of think positively, you may need to have a goal and all the stuff, right? So some of it, just if you look at our messages, it's about right, you need to know what makes you happy, you need to love what you do, right? And you need to get a job what you love, right, in the same area as what you love. If you cannot, make sure that you'll start liking what you do, right? That's the only way your heart and brain comes into sync, and that's what I think Sudhindra was talking about, right? You have to make some compromises, there is no doubt. And if you start loving what you do, then automatically your heart and mind will be in sync. Or you just get the right skills, be motivated, and start doing whatever you want to do. And only 50% of the people can do, right? Can work on what they want. Remaining people have to start loving what they work on. Right? Very important. And finally, execute, right? Whatever you plan, you want to read, right? You want to develop the skills. If you can't execute in this phase, whether it is innovation skills, real innovation, execution, all these things, I think the major problem we have is we don't execute, right, to completion. So start focusing on the skills. How to develop innovators DNA? Very simple tips, right? Ask questions. Why? Right? You might have heard about 5 whys, right? Sometimes the symptom and the problems are completely different, right? If you keep asking the question why, sometimes you hit on the right problem, right? Why not? What if is about exploring alternatives and imagination. Right? There are questions around why, what, how. I think this was again covered in the morning session. So understanding the beliefs of system and what you could do, you can use these questions for ideation also. Very simple tip. You can start practicing it. Observe customers, users of your product. Let's say, right, you are developing a mobile app and it's not confidential, right? Father and try, means this is a simple app I've done, just go and try. Let's see what happens, right? You'll start when they give feedback, you may be surprised, right, how people think. I'm just giving an example, but you can do it with real people in real setup, because there is UI UX study, especially if you can do. And as I said, right, sometimes let's say I'm in the business of we are HP is in the business of delivering server storage and networking, right? I want to understand, right, if I have to observe, I want to understand how a technician takes the servers from the factory, takes it to the data center. What happens when they put all the cables, right? What happens when there is somebody comes and replaces the part? Because data centers can be as big as 10 football fields, right? A big data center. And how do they manage all these servers? Okay, when the server is ready to be uh, decommissioned, right? So the life is done. What do they do? What are the pains, gains, right? How does the administrator manage the patches? So there are so many stakeholders, right? And their needs are different. So if you understand the ecosystem, you can start innovating and developing solutions that really differentiate their experience, right? Observe companies, people you admire, use all your senses and visualize, right? Very important. You may have people whom you admire. That's where LinkedIn, when you log into LinkedIn, it's not just social networking, right? Look at, maybe I know many of you are active in LinkedIn. I am not, because that was a lesson to me, right? I don't build my brand that actively in LinkedIn, but I think I should do something. But then if you're already doing it, right, start thinking and wearing, right? Let's say you get a problem. This is something that has worked for me. And sometimes you're in an organization for a long time. If you wear the persona of a different person, how will Steve Jobs look at this problem? Or how will Amazon solve this problem, right? Suddenly, if you know the DNA of the company, you again do out of the box thinking, right? You're breaking your siloed thinking and thinking differently. So these are some of the things that you can again practice. Have diverse people in your network, attend conferences. So I'm very happy that we have a good attendance conferences. This is how you learn. This is how you get perspectives. And I think the sessions that have been shared from the morning, right, they have condensed the learning from many years into presentations. So you should go to attend conferences, network with people, and get their expertise and build new experiences. Build prototypes, disassemble products. As students of engineering, right? Computer science engineers don't know what's inside a computer, right? I mean, I'm astonished because means they score very high marks. But if I ask the engineers, tell me what goes inside a computer, right? How does computer boot? Very simple question, right? We don't know because we have been trained in a way to think more theoretical. It has changed over the past, but until you disassemble, right, you start looking at new things, right, in a different way, you will not get that knowledge, right, and not that experiences. Force new associations. So you could use analogy to map certain different areas to and see, right, how the concepts there can be applied to your area. For example, networking and traffic, right? So let's say you are in Cisco or HPE working on network routers, right? Congestion management, how is it handled in traffic conditions? So that's a straightforward analogy. So you can apply analogy of nature to self-healing solutions. There are so many things that you can do. You can even combine two different random words to see what happens. So let's say virtualization plus storage, right? Or means when you start combining, right, your mind starts thinking differently, and that's how many of the ideas might have come also, right? And as I said, wear the hat of an engineer, innovator. Very easy to do when you follow some company and person. When you if you start thinking how they can solve the problem, you'll get different perspectives. Last but not the least, summary of design thinking, 5 phases. Empathize is about understanding user needs, going deep, there is behavior. Empathy is different from sympathy, right? So be empathetic, develop a good EQ along with IQ, right? Define is about clearly articulating the problem with the user in mind and the reason, right? The need and the insight from your empathize phase. Ideate, look for volume and variety, right? Have define, use the tools that I mentioned. One of them very easy to use. You can start off practicing it. And once you ideate, come up with the prioritized ideas, prototype it quickly, not detailed prototype. We can do it through storyboarding, Lego blocks, wireframes, right? To build the concept to life and verify your assumptions, test your solutions, and then test it in a way that you may be wrong, right? Don't get attached to your solution. Look at the problem, right? And for the enterprises, many of you are working on your product. You may not get to meet the users, customers, because maybe US and other geographies interact with the customers more. In this case, when a problem is defined, understand who the problem, who are the stakeholders, what is it, why is it being, what is the benefit and the value of that solution that you are developing. Make sure you ideate for multiple solutions because some of them can become patent applications, and especially if you're using mobile applications, because the world is moving slowly from hardware firmware to apps, right? The world is more about apps and data now. So if you're working in the area of apps, make sure that you use UI, UX, user study, right? Empathize, all that stuff, right, that we talked about. Usability study, empathize, capture the say do things, etc., and then make your product better very early in the life cycle, right? And you have a better chance of succeeding in the market. DT can be applied in personal problems, personal and life situations also. So after I started learning design thinking, I applied it on my wife. Very tough to understand, but right? I learned few things, right? I learned few things, and I have become a better husband to my wife, because I know when not to react and when not to react, because I could understand her emotional needs, right? Why certain times the behavior is this way. I have applied it in some small parts, right? For example, I'm staying in an apartment. I was given a job to modernize the playground. It was a very small place. So I thought I'll apply design thinking principle. So I wanted to observe how kids play. There was very less space. It was then we just did not want to put more equipments. So we understood. We talked to the parents and what their preferences are and all the stuff, and we made sure that whatever we did, right, actually helped the kids rather than just putting two three equipments which they never played. I think we did the right thing. So again, very small things you can apply design thinking, right? Yeah, tough question, right? One thing means I was lucky to be right graduating at the time in 1995 when the IT was kind of growing in India. And I got to work on hardware, firmware. Means I can call myself a truly full stack architect, because I've developed ASICs, motherboards, right, operating system modules, web applications, cloud applications, etc. So that actually right got me. And one thing that emotionally hit me right as soon as I graduated is when I came out, I realized that means I was scoring good marks, right? I was a distinction student all the time. But as soon as I graduated, I realized I didn't know anything, right? I was unfit to be called a engineer, because didn't know the basics, right? And whatever I studied and whatever the industry wanted was completely different. That actually motivated me to say that I will become a good student and I will learn whatever I couldn't learn in my 21 years, right, in college. And I kept learning. And what kept me going, one more thing is whenever I see people struggling, right, because the problems that I faced, I didn't want anybody else to face. I started kind of doing sessions, right, running programs to make sure that whatever I learn, I teach them. And that kept me going for so many years, and along with the change in technologies, right? And as I said, I was also lucky to have the right people around me. That's a very simple answer, right? I don't have dreams of becoming the CEO or anything like that, right? I just take step by step. I always had my foot on the ground, and this COVID is not troubling me because my life was like a upper middle class, right? So I am fine staying at home and doing my work, right? So that actually helped me my habits and my methods. So I read books and I keep myself engaged with my family. See, the again, right, when the problem is very clear, right, so you don't need to go through the empathy phase. You can, as I said, you can start doing the ideation process and look for different ways of coming up with ventilators, right? So it's not wrong, because at this point of time there is a shortage of ventilators, and if we have to scale our manufacturing or come up with something that can give ventilator like features, we need to think about it, right? But you are right, right? What is happening is 100 out of the 100 solutions that you see that looks promising, maybe one or two will make it to the market, right? And whoever makes it to the market, right? It depends on the experience of the people who are working on it. If they understand the technology better, they know the fundamentals, they know what is required, environment needs, the disease requirements, right? Then they will be able to design the product better. So it's more about execution, and when they are coming up with alternate solutions, they need to ideate, right? They need to make sure that it really solves the problem. So it's not wrong. It is not like design thinking has to be used everywhere, all the five phases. It has to be used for complex problems, especially when you don't know what's happening. Definitely, you need to talk to people. But even some of the aspects I talked about, right? When the problem is clear, you can still ideate for volumes, prototype quickly, right? Test it, make sure that it meets the requirement, and then you can continue some phases of design thinking. So answer is two things. You don't have to follow complete phases of design thinking. Not all the things that is being done and showcased in TV will be successful for sure. Only two or three will be successful, and that depends on the capability of that organization. And many times it's, as you said, it may be a gimmick, right? They want to just show they are doing something, and it's happening everywhere, not just in regulators, even in the IT field, right? They are saying we have MI, AI, ML, visualization, etc., but you still don't know how the disease is spreading, right? We have a long way to go. Since I don't have the context, right? I mean, in the sense, right? Sometimes you can't rely on what the media is telling, also, right? So I can tell you at a high level what should be our approach, right? So again, if if clearly the problem is established, right? What does India need at this point of time? What does world need at this point of time, right? So if that problem is articulated, you can have, again, it depends on how well you are networked. There could be some, there may be some government support, right, to connect industries together, to connect the key people together. There is a lot of talent available in India, but sometimes you don't know where to go and spend your energy on, and there is so much bureaucracy, right? You don't contribute. So creating that positive environment, right? Clearly articulating the needs, right, of India, and then maybe using the prediction models that has been built in other by many others, right? So where India is heading, right? Where is it going to come? Different simulation models. The ventilator itself, right? The needs of the ventilator itself is not clear. When I watch the media, right, I get to know. Means I think ventilators. There are news saying that you should not put COVID patients on a ventilator, right? You should avoid putting COVID patients on a ventilator because once you put, the condition deteriorates, right? So there are conflicting research coming out. So I'm still not clear, but the approach has to be very simple, right? Again, understand the problem clearly. What do we need with all the data? Form hypothesis. Put at the right team, right? So look at where the expertise is with hardware, technology, etc. Have some either consortium support, right? Industry-led support or government support, and make it happen. Right? Enable them. And again, you can use prototype test method there. That's the only way I can tell because I'm not an expert. And I don't have the complete context, so I cannot be telling either yes or no. Innovation, right? If the intention is that I'm going to add value to human beings, right, or you are adding value, I don't think there is a disadvantage, right? But you also need to look into consideration the impact on social and environmental responsibilities. Right? Those things come in when you look for feasibility and viability, right? When you start grading the ideas, you may want to look at and say, okay, this is not something I want to pursue because my values and the ecosystem that I want to build, right, or maybe the Mother Earth that we want to have in the future may not be aligned. That's perfectly fine. But where it becomes a problem is, yeah, you want to keep adding value to one community, right? But then you are destroying maybe the ecosystem to create value and not looking at the balance, right? That could be the only place where I see that the innovation is bad because you're destroying mother nature for, let's say, human beings because we are greedy. That's bad, right? But if you're adding value, right, in terms of making sure we are productive, right, at the same time taking into consideration all the other things, right? There are regulations that comes up for social climatic changes, etc., and if we are following all that stuff, it should be fine. If I will tell you one thing, if you guys have to be successful, and if India has to be successful, innovation, creativity, skill is absolutely important, right? If you have to become a 5 trillion economy, right, be the next superpower. So in that context, I will say yes, right? If you look at what Indian government is trying to do, they have set innovation cells, right, multiple places. They are trying to kind of bring in the skills of innovation at an early stage. We need more startups. We need more startups to be successful. We need our engineers to run jobs because when we were growing up, right, we didn't have a stable income, right? And now I think the my son and the budding guys, they have at least some stability. They can take some risk and help India take to the next level, and they need to have these skills. So absolutely, from my viewpoint, it has to be there, and it will get there in some form soon. Okay, so one thing, right? Testing in the next 3 to 4 years is going to be changed completely, right? It is already changing, right? We are going to a world where everything will be automated. If it can be automated, it has to be automated, right? So you will stop seeing the role of a testing only jobs, right, go away unless it's a very, very manual, right? You have to insert hardware, firmware to test your IT kind of jobs, but everything will have some element of development also. So you'll have to have test case. You'll become a test automation engineer, right? You will also do some manual tests. Everybody needs to do some manual activity, but you will predominantly become a test engineer. And test engineer has to have domain expertise. It's not like they will not be using their brains. They have to use their brains. They have to continuously look at optimizing, adding value to the company. So the profession is going to change. Every job is important going forward. So I would say, means test or dev, don't worry, develop the right skills. Test is going to change into a test dev role going forward, right? And so you will have to have developer skills also, especially automation, Python, Perl, all those things, right? And there is a new thing called infrastructure as code. You are in the IT field, you have to write code to automate the infrastructure, bring up monitoring, everything will be automated, right? And if you don't automate, you are out of business soon, right? And that's what I'm saying. The world is cutthroat until the COVID thing came out, right? If you are not fast enough, you'll be displaced in few years, right? Look at Amazon, right? There was a question around, please elaborate some tech companies that undergo innovation. What did they do? Everybody was buying IT equipments and putting it in the data centers, right? So if you're a startup, you have to buy the IT equipments, and if you have to set up an email server for your office with 50 people, you have to buy those equipments, hire an IT administrator. What did Amazon do, right? They said, okay, don't have to buy equipments, right? They understood the pain, because you to set up, to monitor, to manage, it takes months. And right, what happens if you're in a big company, you want a new application to be hosted, you have to get 20 approvals, and by the time it takes 3 months for the IT or infrastructure to be deployed, right? And by the time the idea is stale. So what did they do? They said, okay, I'm going to give you info on your fingertips the ability to procure server, storage, networking, anything you want on the fly in something called a cloud. It very, very innovative idea, right? And that's disrupting the way we consume infrastructure components, right? Machine learning, everything, right? You want to do machine learning, just go open up and you have all the stack ready, Hadoop, Hadoop, everything is ready. Just add your code and done. Cloudless, right? We are going with something called serverless and cloudless. So the next generation will not write code, right? They will just write the function that will take an input, convert the input, and then everything, how it is managed, right? The framework, the database technology, everything will be done by somebody else, right? So we are going towards no code, low code. All these are innovations, right? Innovation happens. Every tech company is innovating, otherwise it can't survive. So innovation, again, you have two types, right? Incremental innovation, where we keep adding, improving performance, improving usability, and breakthrough innovations, right, which could be radically different, like Amazon, quantum computing, right? Morning, I think there was a mention about the quantum computing right, conference that IEEE is trying to have. So many things, blockchain. So there is a lot of technology that is just disrupting the way things are happening. But then everybody is going to be innovating, will be innovating. Uh, we normally do incremental innovation, right? That's the difference. See, right now, if you look at what we need, right? Since you asked me to pick one, I would say let's focus on innovation, right? Innovating new business models, innovating on what we already have, right? And developing the skills to make India much better, right? For example, agriculture, all the fields where we are struggling, right? Use technology, genomics, robotics, right? Make it happen. So maybe the technology is already there, right? If we customize and make it relevant, low cost, right? That is innovation. Invention, right? Invention is coming up with something new. Let's say, I will say new material for nanotechnology, right? We don't have that capability right now. We don't have the funding, research funding to do some of these very, very cutthroat, deep technology aspects, because there are countries which have invested very heavily. So our best bet is if we can innovate and maybe find one or two areas where we can invent also, right? And that has to be very focused. So if we can put all our resources on making sure that we innovate, right? Let's say IAC and IITs, right? They're doing some cool things, but the gap between the industry and the academics is huge, right? We need something in the near term to make ourselves successful, and some inventions can happen finding out the next uh, way carbon comes in, or next material, right? Those things can happen later also. So innovation is my answer, but invention has to go on, but in a very very prioritized way, focused way.
Yeah, so we have two more questions. One is, can you please elaborate some of the tech companies that undergo innovation consistently? And the second question is, so you mentioned about developing fundamentals to come up with good innovation. Can you specify those fundamental skills? So we'll wrap it
Okay.
after these two questions.
Yeah, I think I answered this question, right? I gave that every tech company is innovating. I think I gave the example of Amazon, right? Just to make sure how innovated Microsoft, how they moved to the cloud, everything has been moved to the cloud, right? How I talked about quantum computing. So I I was answering this question, how elaborate some tech companies that undergo innovation. Right? So Amazon from a book company has become a right e-commerce giant, right? They're just selling books. They transform themselves. Microsoft from selling operating systems is now their business is in the cloud, right? So everybody is transforming. HP from a company selling hardware, we are moving towards being the platform as a service company, right? We want to ensure that containers is a new thing. We are going to make sure you can develop applications very very fast using our new technology. So everybody is innovating, and you can't survive without innovation, right? The next question was around focus on develop fundamentals on some with good innovation. Can you specify? See, as I said, right? Let's say you're a computer science engineer. If you don't know how a computer works, right? How will you be able to even innovate anything in that space, right? So when I say you have to have the fundamental skills, right? Let's say you are a developer, right? You are developing for IT company, right? So the fundamental skills will be if you are developing systems, right, embedded systems and all, you should know computer architecture, scheduling, right, how it works, and sometimes you should be able to visualize, right, when you transmit data from when you write into a register, what really happens inside the processor, because some of the problems can be so complex that you need those deep knowledge to debug, right? So that's one way of saying know the fundamentals, right? And let's assume you are building test automation, right? So starting from how, why is it needed, right? Who are the consumers, right? What is the framework? How do you develop a framework, uh, an architecture to allow high scalability, right? High performance, right? What does high performance mean? How do you come up with a scalable architecture, right? What does scalability mean? What does elasticity mean, right? So you should know all these fundamental concepts and how this is working right now, so that when I ask you to build an automation framework, right, which is highly scalable, you know the technologies, underlying technologies, and you can build one. And that's what I meant by fundamentals, right? So whichever area you're working in, you need to know the components that make it happen, the component technologies that make it happen, right? That particular that's help to solve the problem, and the history, right? The history behind how people have innovated in your area, right? And where the world is going. So a combination of this will help you to innovate. So very very means tough question to answer, but I think I hope I have given you enough pointers.